just simply delighted to be the person who gets to follow us. Because both of them have demonstrated convincingly that one explanation, if not a dominant explanation for affirmative action and higher education, is the remedy. I mean, the word might not be remedy. It might be correct. It might be compensate. It might be to solve something. So I'm glad I followed. Question is, what are we trying to remedy? Today I'm going to focus on some work that relates to mechanism within schools that can influence the performance of students, which explain why we need affirmative action. That mechanism is just one of many different things that go on within a school that are not exclusively the result of the defects or the inherent inequalities or the biological deficiencies that blacks, American Indians, Hispanics have. And the reason why I'm going to pick out suspensions is you can't get suspended about somebody's suspension. So suspension is an administrative matter. Suspension is a formal mechanism to remove you from the classroom. Now, you might say, well, you have to do something in order to get suspended. Turns out that do what? Question the teacher. Act arrogant. Talk loudly. Boy, can I just look up this person out with that? At the type of school where suspension is the primary mechanism to separate the students that you don't want to teach as opposed to students you do want to teach. And so I'm beginning with a piece of work that's in collaboration with Susan McElroy, Steve Howe, and Ronald Fernandez. And I've done a lot of rough ways about the problems with questions of indigeneity and estimation methodology and so forth. And I really am empowered by this audience because I'm convinced that rather than just simply put the paper away, some of you have seen this paper before because it's under revised and resubmit over and over again. Rather than just put it away, I'm going to respond to the critics' concerns that some of these verbs are endogenous verbs. I want to begin with the distribution in the National Longitudinal Survey 1997 of the Ph.D. Individual Achievement Test Revised, which is a test. This is one of 6 tests that's offered, and this is the mathematics test. The reason I'm picking out the mathematics test as opposed to the reading test or as opposed to the writing test is to try to a test that is less susceptible to differences because of language or culture. So the mathematics test has a component that deals with measurement, has a component that deals with calculation, a component that deals with analytical reasoning, and these are age-appropriate tests. They're offered different grades, so 8th grade to 12th grade, but they're age-appropriate. You begin with a question. If you get it right, then it's a more difficult question. If you get it right, it's a more difficult question. If you got it wrong, then there's another question of the same level of difficulty. You get that next one wrong, it's the same level of difficulty. Okay, so the test meets some sort of standard that's associated with measuring people's achievement. This is not an intelligence test. This is an achievement test. What's interesting is that the red line is the black distribution for this test. And if you look carefully, you'll see that there's a 1.5% share of black people who got perfect score. So I'm using not the standardized version, by which I mean it's fit to a normal distribution. I'm using the percent correct version. And my students are always amazed that there's a higher fraction of black students who got perfect score in this test than there are white students who got perfect score. And by the way, by black, I mean black, non-Hispanic, permanent residents or U.S. citizens. And the white is white, non-Hispanic. Nonetheless, if you look at the black distribution kind of looks like it's a shaped distribution with a mode that is to the left of the mode for the white distribution. But what's interesting about the white distribution, and I've done some tests of the hypothesis that the white distribution is a single mode distribution, and I consistently reject the hypothesis that this white distribution is single, peak. There's a two peak. The first peak is close to the black peak, and then there's another peak, and that other peak is way up there. And so be careful when you do things like recent papers and through political economy that compares the means, because the means for different distributions is probably not the best way to do things. So I'm going to not look at the means, but I'm going to do quantile regressions looking at each portion of the distribution. Now, why is this important? You take out all those whites at that second peak, and the blacks are just like the whites with some degree of separation. If you add those whites in, then there's a huge difference in the bad test scores. And what's going on is that this is a national sample. There are wide geographical variations among whites. Let's talk about Columbia, South Carolina. In Columbia, South Carolina, whites do very poorly on this bad exam. In Columbia, South Carolina, blacks do very poorly on this exam. So ironically, in Columbia, South Carolina, the gap in the test scores is small. Now let's think about Minnesota. In Minnesota, blacks do better than average on this math exam. In fact, blacks in Minnesota have the highest math SAT average in the country for blacks. But yet, Minnesota also has the largest racial gap in test scores because whites in Minnesota do so much better. Okay, so that's why you need to be kind of careful about just looking at the mean. Okay. So I'm concerned about estimating and decomposing the test scores. So why do I care about affirmative action? I care about affirmative action because I can't get white and black students to match with respect to their test scores or with respect to their grade point average, which is predicted by things like achievement and math. If I had blacks and whites who were equal in their test scores, then it wouldn't be affirmative action in an anti-discrimination program, okay? And an equal opportunity program. The only reason why places like Berkeley, places like UCLA are concerned about the low share of African Americans who are admitted using their colorblind admission process. It's not the colorblind admission process uses the test scores, it uses the grades. Okay, like in math. So what's your solution to the problem? One solution is throw out the test scores. And so promoter, I think the president of promoter has argued let's throw out the test scores. I think the president of Sarah Lawrence has said, no, the president of Bar that says let's throw out the test scores. And to the best of my knowledge, Sarah Lawrence does not require test scores. Okay. That's one solution. Just throw the test scores out. But another solution is try to understand why black people have lower test scores. I mean, I would try to understand why blacks have lower test scores independent of things I can't change. In other words, is there something about the school? Is there something about mechanism within learning math that I can understand. So I need to decompose it. So I'll include individual characteristics like age, gender, number of children, family, household characteristics, school characteristics, and I'll add suspensions. Now, briefly, why do I think suspensions is not endogenous? Why do I think suspension is exogenous? Number one, I did do the hospital test, and I reject the hypothesis that it's endogenous. But number two, the test is given at the beginning of the 8 ways survey. The suspensions variable refers to time prior to administration of the test. So there's a recursive process here, and if you really think something is endogenous, A can't come before B if it's the case that B is endogenous. So I'm just trying to make the case that putting this on the right-hand side doesn't violate, standard commercial assumption. Now, ultimately, some of the people are assistant professors on this project, and they need to get something published. And so I might change the word cause to associate or something, just to deal with these referees who don't like what I'm about to say. Okay. So number one, before we go too far, let's do the standard blend of Hubert decomposition and just ask the question. With all these variables that are included, with the dependent variable at the log of the percent correct on the exam, what fraction of the gap is explained by all those errors? And what's left over is what's unexplained. And the answer is 62% of it is unexplained. And this is robust with respect to alternative estimation and classification. So whether or not you use fixed effects, whether or not you take account interaction terms, this is really, really robust across alternative model specification. But this is just that. And the next step is to look at different percentiles, different deciles. So this the lowest 10%, 10 to 20%, 20 to 30%, up to the top 90%. Now this graph summarizes a lot of results, but I'm going to try to make it simple. The blue line is the ratio of the black to white suspension rates by the interval. And so this is the average, the ratio of the average suspension rates in each interval. So at the lowest 10%, suspension rates are 1.5 times higher for blacks than they are for whites. At the 50 percentile, the suspension rates are twice as high for blacks and whites. At the 90 percentile, at the very top, the suspension rates are 1.5 times as high for blacks and whites. In other words, the smartest, the most accomplished, because it's a cheap results, the most accomplished blacks are 1.5 times likely to have suspended whites. Okay, that's the first thing. Then the second thing is I've estimated the regression at one of the independent variables is suspension, and I calculate the percentage change in the total score of percent. That's the coefficient, and I find the ratio of the right coefficient. Fact number one, coefficients are negative, and that's the reason why the ratio of the black and white coefficient is positive. Fact number two, at the lowest percentiles, the effect of being suspended is larger in absolute value for whites than for blacks. As a result, the ratio of the marginal effects is less than 1. At the 10% 20 percentile, 30 percentile, 40 percentile, 50 percentile, because whites who are suspended face a major penalty with respect to their performance one day. And that goes all the way up to the 70th percentile, the 80th percentile, and then at the 90th percentile, the effect reverses, where the adverse impact of being suspended at the top is bigger for blacks than for whites. Okay, so that kind of just what I'm trying to summarize is it differs a lot of distribution. Okay, so remember that the distribution isn't really adequately measured by name. You want to look at each part of the distribution. So how much of the explained gap is explained by suspension at the mean? It's about 27%. What I want to do, so I'm not concerned about the mean, I'm concerned about each one of these intervals. At the lowest intervals, okay, so the yellow part is the percent of the gap within the interval that is due to the effects of suspension, meaning differential treatment of suspension. The red is the portion that's due to differences in suspension, and the green is the total effect. Okay? The total effect is the margin effect plus the effect of just differences in suspension. Because whites are disproportionately disadvantaged at the bottom with respect to suspensions, even though blacks are more likely to be suspended, the net effect is small. It's small at the 10 percentile, it's small at the 20 percentile, it's small at the 40 percentile, it's small at the 50 percentile, it's small at the 60 percentile. What happens, William Darcy? I want you to understand that this is about blacks at the top. What's happening is that because blacks at the top have higher suspension rates than whites at the top, and B, because there's a larger adverse effect of suspension on blacks at the top than whites at the top, then there is a net effect that at the top, 1/5 of the test score gap is explained by the combination of different suspension differences in factors. So in conclusion, number one, there are really wide differences in test scores, which is why we are concerned about affirmative action. Affirmative action is remedying something. Affirmative action rectifying something. What is rectify? One of the main things is that in the absence of some intervention, blacks won't get admitted to schools that expect that you have some minimal test score. And by the way, these test scores also highly correlated with grades, because it's a achievement test. So that's why. Turns out that race-conscious policies can partially compensate for these differences. Most of the gap in the difference in test scores are unexplained, but a sizable portion of the gap is due to differences in suspension. And the suspension problem is a problem at the top. It's a problem with people who are coming out of the Los Angeles public school who are applying to the University of California at Berkeley. So, you want a solution? You want to solve, okay, so let's say California said, we don't want to have affirmative action anymore. You want to solve the problem? Let's solve the problem of racially disciplined suspension that even begins in preschool. And all the way you even have kids in nursing school who are being suspended. So thank you very much.
Hey, what's up now?
Brother, what's up?
This is a groovy party, man.
Yeah,
I
brother,
can dig it.
stop. Right on.